She was America's most powerful CEO until one mistake wiped out $1 billion in seconds. Her empire collapsed, her reputation burned, and everyone turned their backs. But the black man who would save her wasn't a billionaire or a genius. He was the janitor mopping her floor. Her name was Olivia Grant, a legend in the tech world. The youngest female CEO in Silicon Valley, known for her cold confidence and ruthless precision. For 10 years, she built Grant Tech Innovations into a billion-dollar empire, a company that promised to change the future of technology forever. She had everything: money, power, respect, and the world watched her rise like she was untouchable. Until the day everything she worked for died on her watch. It was supposed to be her greatest triumph, the launch of a defense project worth $1 billion. Every screen in the control room glowed with data. Investors were watching. Reporters were waiting. The government had its eyes on her company. Olivia stood in front of her team, calm, confident, unstoppable. And then, the screens went black. One by one. Every server, every backup, every system. Dead. Get it back online, she shouted. But her voice was swallowed by chaos. Engineers were panicking, programmers typing furiously, alarms blaring. The billion-dollar system had crashed, and no one knew why. Minutes turned into hours. The world's eyes were still on her. Her assistant whispered, "Ma'am, the data's corrupted. Everything's gone." She froze. That's impossible. But it wasn't. It was real. Her billion-dollar project, destroyed. By evening, the headlines were everywhere. Olivia Grant's billion-dollar failure. Grant Tech collapse. Investors panic. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Partners were pulling out. Reporters camped outside her headquarters. Her empire was falling faster than she could breathe. At midnight, the office was silent except for the faint hum of dead machines. Olivia sat in the dark, staring at the empty screens that had just ruined her life. Her mascara had smeared. Her hands trembled. For the first time in years, she looked human. She whispered to herself, "How could I lose everything in just seconds?" Then, a soft knock on the door. She didn't even look up. "I said no one comes in." A calm voice answered, "Sorry, ma'am. Cleaning crew." Thought everyone left. She turned, irritated. "Well, you thought wrong." The door opened slowly. A tall black man in his 50s stepped inside, pushing a mop bucket. His navy blue uniform was faded. His name tag read Marcus. He started to back out. "Didn't mean to bother you." But then his eyes landed on the flickering server lights. "That your system?" he asked quietly. Olivia glared. "Yes, my billion-dollar system that's dead. You can go." Marcus nodded slowly, still watching the screens. "That light right there, it's blinking wrong. Power feedback loop, maybe." She frowned. "Excuse me." He took a cautious step forward. "See that red light? That means the main circuit's stuck in standby mode. If you reroute the voltage manually, you might restart it." Olivia stared at him, half angry, half exhausted. "You're a janitor. How do you know that?" He smiled lightly. "Used to be an engineer. Before life had other plans." She hesitated. No one else had a solution. "Fine," she said quietly. "Go ahead." Marcus rolled up his sleeves, unplugged a terminal, typed a quick command into the console, and switched two cables. The room went dark for 3 seconds. Then, the lights blazed back to life. The screens flickered. Data streamed across the monitors. Servers restarted. The entire system was back. Her engineers rushed in, shouting, "Ma'am, it's working. The data's back. Everything's online." Olivia froze, staring at the screens, and then at Marcus. "What did you just do?" she asked, stunned. He smiled humbly. "Didn't fix much. Just gave it a little push in the right direction." A slow laugh escaped her lips, half disbelief, half relief. "You have no idea what you just saved." Marcus wiped his hands on a rag. $8 billion, right? Guess I should have charged more than minimum wage." She smiled for the first time in days. "Who are you?" He looked down modestly. "Marcus Johnson. Been cleaning this place for 8 years." That night, after everyone had left, Olivia sat alone in her office, still thinking about him. A janitor had fixed what her best engineers couldn't, and he'd done it in seconds. It wasn't just the repair that stuck with her. It was his calm, his certainty, his lack of ego. The next morning, she found him cleaning the lobby. "You saved my company," she said. Marcus shook his head. "No, ma'am. You built something worth saving. I just saw what everyone else missed." She asked, Why didn't you tell anyone you were an engineer?" He looked up with a soft smile. "Because people stop listening once they see this uniform." That single line hit her harder than any failure. In the days that followed, Olivia couldn't stop thinking about Marcus's words. She invited him to sit in on a systems meeting. Her engineers laughed at first, until Marcus calmly pointed out a wiring error that had cost them millions. By the end of the week, the same people who ignored him were asking for his advice. And Olivia? She saw him differently now. He wasn't just a janitor. He was the reason she believed again. Because sometimes, it takes losing everything to finally see the value in what and who you've overlooked all along. The next few days at Grant Tech felt different. For the first time in months, Olivia walked through the office without that crushing weight on her shoulders. The billion-dollar project was back online. Investors were calming down, and the headlines were slowly shifting. But deep down, she knew she didn't save it. Marcus did, and she couldn't stop thinking about him. He wasn't like anyone she'd ever met. No ego, no titles, just calm certainty, a quiet strength. Every time she saw him pushing that mop down the hallway, she felt something strange, respect. He didn't ask for credit. He didn't brag. He just worked, invisible to everyone but her. One morning, she found him in the server room again, checking the power lines like he'd always belonged there. "You know," she said, leaning against the door, "you could easily be leading our engineering team." He chuckled. "I'm fine right here, ma'am. Less stress. Cleaner floors." She smiled faintly. "You don't like success?" He looked up at her, his eyes calm. "Success? I like peace more." That line stayed with her all day. She'd spent her whole life chasing success, and somewhere along the way, she'd lost peace. Later that week, Olivia gathered her top engineers for a follow-up meeting. They were still struggling with a glitch in the system's new interface. When Marcus happened to walk by, she called him in. "Marcus, would you take a look?" The engineers frowned, offended. "Ma'am, with all due respect, we're professionals. We don't need—" She cut him off. "You needed him last week, didn't you?" Marcus stepped forward quietly, scanned the screen, and pointed to a single line of faulty code. "That one. It's looping back into the wrong directory." The engineers blinked. He was right. Within minutes, the system was running smoothly. Olivia couldn't help but smile. "Remind me to triple your pay." He laughed. "I'll settle for coffee." So she invited him. They sat at a small cafe across the street. She in a tailored suit, he in a faded uniform. People stared. She didn't care. For the first time in years, she wasn't talking about profits, deadlines, or shareholders. She was listening. Marcus told her about his life, how he'd once been an electrical engineer in Detroit, designing automation systems. When the factory shut down, he lost everything. His wife passed soon after. His degree meant nothing without connections. So he took whatever work he could find. "Cleaning floors was never the dream," he said softly, "but it kept the lights on." Olivia looked at him, moved. "You had every reason to give up." He smiled. "I did. But giving up doesn't pay rent." There was silence for a while, the kind that says more than words. Then Marcus said something she'd never forget. "You're chasing perfection, Olivia. But perfection's just fear in a nice suit. You want real success? Start building people, not just projects." That sentence hit her like lightning. She'd spent years building machines, systems, profits, but never people. Over the next few weeks, Olivia changed. Slowly, subtly, but surely. She started talking to her employees instead of through them. She listened. She thanked them. She even replaced the executive-only elevator policy Marcus once teased her about. The office began to feel alive again. People smiled. They stayed late because they wanted to, not because they had to. And in every corner of that building, Marcus's quiet influence could be felt, like sunlight in a room that had been dark for too long. But not everyone was happy. Some board members didn't like the new Olivia. They called her soft, distracted. "She's letting a janitor run the company," one executive sneered. When Olivia heard about it, she didn't shout or defend herself. She simply said, "That janitor saved this company. What have you done lately?" Her tone silenced the room. Later that night, as she and Marcus stood in the lobby, she told him what they said. He just smiled. "People fear change. But sometimes change needs a broom before it needs a boardroom." She laughed. "You always have a line for everything." He grinned. "That's 'cause I've seen a lot. You start seeing clearer when nobody's watching you." One evening, as the sun set behind the skyline, Olivia called an all-staff meeting. She stood on the same stage where she once announced the billion-dollar deal. But this time, her tone was different. No company survives on money alone, she said. It survives on people, the ones who stay late, who care, who believe. And sometimes, the greatest talent in the world is hidden behind a uniform we don't bother to notice. She gestured toward the back of the room, where Marcus stood, quietly trying to disappear. Everyone turned. Applause began slowly, then grew until the whole auditorium shook. Marcus tried to step away, embarrassed, but Olivia said firmly, "Marcus Johnson, you're no longer just the janitor. Starting today, you're part of our engineering advisory team." The crowd erupted. Marcus's eyes widened. "Ma'am," he whispered, "you don't have to do that." She smiled. "I know, but I want to." For a moment, the entire company saw what Olivia had learned the hard way. That genius doesn't always wear a suit, and greatness can come from anywhere. That night, after everyone left, Marcus stood by the window looking over the city. Olivia joined him. He said quietly, "You changed, you know." She smiled. "No, Marcus. You changed me." He shook his head. "Nah, I just reminded you that light still shines in broken places." Olivia looked out at the skyline, the same one she'd once ruled from a distance. Only now, it didn't feel so lonely. For the first time, she didn't see numbers or deals. She saw people, lives, hope, and for the first time in years, the woman who once lost everything finally felt whole. The weeks that followed were some of the busiest Olivia had ever experienced. But for the first time, she didn't feel trapped by stress or fear. Instead, she felt a quiet confidence, one she had never known in her old, ruthless life. The billion-dollar project she had once almost lost was back on track. But this time, she approached it differently. Meetings weren't dominated by her orders anymore. Ideas were shared. Opinions were valued. And through it all, Marcus was there, silently observing, quietly offering guidance, and occasionally pointing out a small technical detail that no one else noticed. It was during one late-night session, as the office was nearly empty, that Olivia realized just how much she had changed. Marcus had stayed behind, as usual, carefully inspecting the main server. His hands moved with the same precision she had once admired in her engineers. "Marcus," she said softly, "how do you always see what everyone else misses?" He looked at her, a faint smile on his face. "Because I don't see the company. I see the problem. You're too focused on impressing people to notice the little things." Her heart sank, but in that moment, she understood the truth in his words. It wasn't arrogance or luck that had built Grant Tech. It had been persistence, observation, and the ability to adapt. Something Marcus understood better than anyone else. Just then, the phone rang. It was an investor from overseas, the final piece needed for the launch of a revolutionary technology, a system that could reshape global communications. But the investor's voice on the line was tense. "Olivia, we just received a report. The mainframe error you had last month, it appears again. If it isn't fixed immediately, the deal is off." Her stomach dropped. The project that had already almost destroyed her career was now on the edge again. Panic rose in the pit of her stomach. She had trained her engineers to handle crises, but everyone looked at her with uncertainty. And in that instant, she remembered Marcus. "Marcus," she said, turning toward him, "can you?" He nodded without hesitation and moved to the server console. In mere seconds, he assessed the system, located the corrupted loop, and rerouted the feed, just as he had done weeks before. The server stabilized. The data flowed perfectly. Her engineers stared, mouths open. Olivia felt a surge of relief she hadn't felt in years. In seconds, a disaster that could have cost the company billions was avoided. That was incredible," one of the engineers stammered. "How did you?" Marcus shrugged casually. "Sometimes, all you need is to stop overcomplicating things." Olivia felt a lump in her throat. She had been so focused on status, strategy, and appearances that she had forgotten the most important lesson of all. Brilliance doesn't always come in a suit. Sometimes it comes quietly, in the people you never expect. That night, as the office emptied, Olivia approached Marcus. "You just saved my career again." He shook his head. "You saved yourself. You just didn't realize it until you stopped trying to do it alone." She nodded, feeling a mix of gratitude and awe. It wasn't just about the project. It wasn't just about saving the billion-dollar deal. Marcus had changed her perspective, taught her humility, and shown her the true meaning of leadership. The very next morning, the company buzzed with excitement. The investor had called back, impressed by the rapid recovery and precision of the team. The billion-dollar project was back on track, stronger than before. And in the eyes of every employee, Olivia was no longer just the Iron Queen. She was a leader who listened, who learned, and who recognized the value in everyone, even a janitor. For Olivia, however, the real change was personal. She began involving Marcus in daily strategy sessions, not just as a technical advisor, but as a mentor, a sounding board, and a reminder of what truly mattered. The lessons he taught her weren't just about systems or servers. They were about patience, observation, and the courage to trust others. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of planning and adjustments, Olivia found herself standing alone in the lobby, watching Marcus mop the floor with that quiet efficiency she had come to admire. She walked over, curiosity mixing with a strange sense of humility. "Marcus," she said softly, "why do you do this? Why work as a janitor when you clearly have the knowledge to lead companies?" He paused, looking up at her. Life doesn't always give you the right opportunities at the right time. And sometimes, it's not about leading companies. It's about helping people realize they can lead themselves. His words struck her deeply. She realized he wasn't just saving her projects. He was saving her perspective, her soul, and her ability to lead with empathy. Over the following weeks, Olivia and Marcus developed an unspoken partnership. Together, they fine-tuned the billion-dollar project, anticipating problems before they arose and finding elegant solutions no one else could see. The company thrived, employees were inspired, and the investor was thrilled. Yet, despite all the success, Olivia never forgot the lesson of that night. One man, unnoticed by the world, had changed everything in seconds, and in doing so, had changed her life forever. As she stood by the window that night, watching the city lights flicker, Olivia knew one thing for certain. She had lost everything once, and yet, in the hands of someone others ignored, she had gained so much more. And deep inside, she realized this was only the beginning. Just as things seemed to be settling, the unexpected happened. Olivia sat in her office one Friday afternoon, reviewing the progress reports on the billion-dollar project. The system was stable, investors were pleased, and morale was higher than it had been in months. She leaned back in her chair, finally feeling the weight of fear and panic lift. Then her phone rang. It was a representative from the government contract overseeing the project. His tone was sharp, urgent. "Ma'am, we have a serious problem. We've detected a major flaw in the system. If it's not fixed immediately, the contract could be revoked. This isn't just a setback. It could destroy your company's credibility overnight." Olivia's stomach sank. A flaw? After everything? She glanced at her engineers, who looked equally shocked. They had tested the system dozens of times. How could this be happening? Her mind raced. Panic threatened to rise. But then she saw Marcus leaning casually against the doorway, quietly observing the room. "Marcus," she said, her voice tight. "We need a solution. Fast. Can you help?" He nodded, walking over to the server with the calm confidence that had saved her project before. "Let's take a look. This is just another problem waiting for someone to see it clearly." The engineers moved aside, skeptical, but Marcus ignored them. He traced the flow of the program, checked every connection, and within seconds pointed to a single overlooked line of code, buried deep in the system. "Here," he said. "This loop is causing the error. It's subtle, but it'll crash the system if we don't fix it." Olivia felt her chest tighten. Could it really be that simple? Marcus smiled faintly. Sometimes the biggest problems have the smallest solutions. But it takes someone willing to look closely, without fear or ego. She watched, breath held, as he reprogrammed the line, rerouted the circuit, and restarted the system. The servers hummed back to life. The flaw was gone. The room erupted in applause. Olivia's engineers stared in disbelief. "How did you?" Marcus just shook his head. "I've seen systems like this before. You just have to trust the process, and the person who notices the details no one else sees." That night, after everyone left, Olivia found Marcus in the lobby. He was quietly cleaning the floor, humming softly. She approached him, her heart pounding. "You just saved the company again," she said, voice barely above a whisper. He looked up, calm and collected. "No, you saved it yourself. You just gave me permission to see what everyone else ignored." She smiled, but there was something in her eyes, a mixture of awe and gratitude. "Marcus, I don't know how to thank you. You've saved me more than just my project. You've saved my career, my perspective, my life." He shook his head, almost humbly. "You already thanked me. By listening, by letting yourself change." Over the next few days, Olivia realized something powerful. Marcus didn't just solve technical problems. He solved human ones. He challenged her assumptions, made her see beyond her ego, and reminded her that greatness wasn't measured by money or titles, but by clarity, insight, and courage. Yet the challenges weren't over. A rival tech company caught wind of the near failure of Olivia's billion-dollar project. They launched a smear campaign, leaking false information to the press and investors, claiming Grant Tech was unstable and mismanaged. Headlines screamed, "Grant Tech's billion-dollar project on the brink. CEO Olivia Grant under fire again." For a moment, Olivia felt the old panic rise. She wanted to retreat, to hide, to take control herself and micromanage every decision. But she didn't. She looked at Marcus, quietly sitting in the corner, calm as ever. "You're right," she whispered to herself. "It's time to trust." She called an emergency meeting. The engineers were nervous, the media already circling. Olivia spoke clearly, firmly, but with a newfound humility. She acknowledged the near mistakes, praised Marcus for his insight, and outlined a step-by-step solution that everyone could follow. By the end of the meeting, confidence returned to the team. Investors called back, impressed by the leadership she had shown. And the rival company's rumors? They quickly fizzled, unable to withstand the transparency and precision Olivia now commanded. That night, alone in her office, Olivia finally allowed herself to breathe. The city skyline glittered outside her window, and she thought about how far she had fallen and how far she had risen again. Marcus walked in quietly. "Everything okay?" She nodded. "Better than okay. I finally understand what you've been teaching me." He tilted his head. "And what's that?" She smiled, a mixture of awe and gratitude. "That losing everything doesn't mean the end. That the people you ignore can be the ones who save you. And that sometimes the smallest actions in the right hands can change the course of a life." Marcus didn't respond. He just smiled faintly and returned to his work, quiet, steady, unassuming. The man who had changed her life in just seconds, over and over again. For Olivia, it was more than just a lesson about work or technology. It was a lesson about life, about humility, about perspective, and about the power of noticing what others refuse to see. And deep inside, she realized something profound. Her empire was safe, her project was safe, and this time, she wasn't alone. Because sometimes, it takes losing everything to finally find what really matters. The day of the launch finally arrived. The office buzzed with energy, but this time, it wasn't the tense anxiety of impending failure. It was excitement, anticipation, and confidence. Olivia walked through the corridors, her heels clicking softly on the polished floor, and for the first time, she didn't feel the weight of the world on her shoulders. Beside her, Marcus moved quietly, checking final system feeds with calm precision. He didn't seek applause. He didn't need recognition. But Olivia knew, without him, none of this would have been possible. The investors were already gathering. Cameras from international media outlets captured the moment, ready to broadcast a historic launch to the world. Olivia took a deep breath. This wasn't just a project. It was a testament to years of hard work, sacrifice, and the lessons she had learned the hard way. She glanced at Marcus. "Ready?" she whispered. He nodded, smiling faintly. "Always." The countdown began. Olivia's finger hovered over the final activation switch. Her mind flashed back to the chaos she had faced, the failed servers, the headlines calling her a failure, the endless nights of doubt. And then she remembered the man who had saved her, the janitor who saw what everyone else overlooked, who fixed the impossible in seconds, who quietly believed in her when no one else would. She pressed the switch. The screens lit up. Data flowed flawlessly. Algorithms executed perfectly. Systems synchronized with precision. Silence fell for a split second, then erupted into applause, cheers, and camera flashes. The billion-dollar project was live, fully operational. Every investor, every reporter, every engineer in the room knew they had witnessed history. Olivia stepped back, exhaling. She had done it. They had done it. And she had never felt prouder, not of herself alone, but of the team she had learned to trust. She turned to Marcus. "We did it." He shook his head. "No, you did it. I just reminded you how to see clearly." She laughed, a sound full of relief and joy. "You've done more than remind me, Marcus. You've changed me." For the first time, Olivia made it official. During the post-launch press conference, she stood tall, confident, but humble. She credited the success not only to her team, but to a man who had been overlooked by everyone else. "This project wouldn't have succeeded without every single member of our team," she said, eyes scanning the room. "And I want to acknowledge someone very special, Marcus Johnson, our janitor, whose insight and courage helped save this project when it seemed impossible. In just seconds, he changed the course of our company and my life." Cameras flashed. Reporters whispered. The room erupted into applause again, louder this time. Marcus tried to remain humble, stepping back as Olivia raised his hand in acknowledgement. Later, in the quiet of the now empty office, Olivia and Marcus stood together, watching the city lights flicker outside the window. "You've changed everything for me," she said softly. He smiled. "You changed yourself. I just helped you notice it." And in that moment, Olivia understood the truth. Power, money, and titles could be taken in an instant. But wisdom, perspective, and courage, those were priceless. And sometimes, the people you ignore, the ones who seem ordinary, hold the key to everything. Weeks later, Grant Tech Innovations soared to new heights. Investors who had once doubted her returned. Headlines now praised the comeback of the century. Olivia's reputation was restored, stronger than ever. And she never forgot the lesson that had saved her life. Marcus stayed by her side, not just as an advisor, but as a friend and mentor. And every time she faced a challenge, she remembered that a single moment, a single decision, or a single person could change everything in seconds. The woman who had once lost $1 billion project had now regained far more than money or power. She had gained humility, perspective, and a reminder that true success is measured by the lives you touch, not just the numbers on a balance sheet. And somewhere deep inside, Olivia knew she would never make the same mistake again. Never underestimate anyone, never take anything for granted, and always remember the janitor who changed everything in seconds. Because life has a way of teaching its lessons, sometimes with a boardroom, sometimes with a mop, and sometimes in moments you could never predict. And this time, Olivia was ready for whatever came next. If this story inspired you, don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe for more amazing true life stories, and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video. Share this with someone who needs a reminder that greatness can come from the most unexpected places. See you in the next story.